G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Young from the website kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now, on Sunday the 4th of February 2023, I published an article titled "Peter Dutton attending George Pell's funeral is the political equivalent of tying your dinghy to the Titanic after it hit the iceberg." Now, the point I'm trying to make is that there was no political value in showing up to George Pell's funeral. He's very disliked by a lot of Australians, and he's very disliked for a lot of reasons. And a key reason is the fact that he protected paedophile priests. And that's well known and well documented by the Royal Commission. For Peter Dutton to be showing up to the funeral is in effect saying he couldn't care less about the Royal Commission findings, and he couldn't care less about the victims of pedophiles or the survivors. Now, the New South Wales Premier, Dominic Perrottet, never showed up because he knew it was political dynamite to do so. Neither did the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, or a lot of other senior politicians around the country. They didn't show up. The only real people to show up was former Prime Ministers, John Howard, Peter Dutton himself, Alan Jones, who's had pedophile allegations made against him, and he used to send love letters to schoolboys when he was a teacher at Knox Grammar in the 1970s in Sydney. Mark Latham showed up, which I think was damaging to him and his political party, One Nation. They're meant to be anti-pedophile, and here he is showing up grovelling to the Catholic Church. And also Fred Nile, who's a local New South Wales politician who is part of a Catholic political party. I don't think he did himself any favours, but that political party is almost dead anyhow. And also former Prime Minister Tony Abbott showed up and gave a speech grovelling to George Pell and the Catholic Church. So what was the value for Peter Dutton showing up? Well, I suppose he felt he couldn't do any more damage to his reputation as it is, because he's not very popular with voters. And at least by showing up, he's locking in the Christian vote, or that's how he probably would have perceived it. But what he did do was confirm a lot of people's minds he's a very uncaring sort of person. George Pell supporters can talk all day, every day about how the High Court found him not guilty. Well, the High Court didn't find him not guilty. The High Court overturned their decision on a technicality, a legal technicality. So there was no finding George Pell not guilty. But for his supporters to be saying that, what they're also doing is ignoring the Royal Commission. They're ignoring other allegations of George Pell personally sexually abusing children. And so they're ignoring a lot. I published an article about that a couple of weeks ago, so you can visit my site and read that article and click on the links. One of the most damaging things about George Pell is in 1993, he showed up to court with Gerard Ridsdale, who was a priest who had confessed to sexually abusing children, and he was showing up for his sentencing. He's a confessed pedophile showing up for sentencing. Who shows up to court with a confessed pedophile as a support person? Well, George Pell did. And the only person I know who would show up to court with a confessed pedophile supporting him is another pedophile, and that's what George Pell is as far as I'm concerned. And if I'm wrong, the Royal Commission found that he protected pedophiles anyhow, so he's just as bad. And that's the sort of person that Peter Dutton has tied his political credibility, his political reputation to. Absolute political suicide. But like I said, he probably felt he couldn't do any more damage to his reputation because he's not very popular anyhow. And by showing up, he's tying in some Catholic votes, the hardcore Catholic supporters of Pell, because there's a lot of Catholic supporters who don't support Pell, I'm sure of it. And make sure you visit my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia. You'll see that article there. You can click on the links, a lot further information. And I'll also put a link down below this video on YouTube, a link to a video of George Pell's funeral where some of the survivors were outside singing along to Highway to Hell as George Pell's coffin was being driven away. Some people say they were protesting against George Pell. I think they were protesting not just against George Pell, who's now dead, and but they were also protesting at the Catholic Church and their treatment of survivors. And that's why the other politicians around the country didn't show up, because they didn't want to be linked into that. I find it impossible to believe that the New South Wales Premier, Dominic Perrottet, who didn't show up, who's a very Christian person, didn't warn Peter Dutton not to show up as well. But Peter Dutton decided to show up for whatever reason. I suppose his supporter, John Howard and Tony Abbott, maybe they leaned on him to show up. Other than that, please share this video on Twitter and Facebook, etc. And please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you for your time and have a good day.